Here is Kay Ford, and she is a co-director as well. We've worked together for, what has it been now, 2-3 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Our board president, Gene Ingram, is back there. And how many board members we got here today? Raise your hand if you're a board member.
4.
4 board members.
4.
So, again, thank you for coming. We'll have the drawing after this presentation. We have a gentleman here that came here today. Joe, where are you from again?
Portville.
Portville. He's from Portville, and he's a Hoosier kitchen cabinet item collector, restorer, and brought some interesting posters that I'm going to share with you following my presentation. The presentation is called Cupboards with Brains, Remembering the Iconic Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet. There is no spectacle on earth more appealing than that of a beautiful woman in the act of cooking dinner for someone she loves.
Amen to that.
That is a beautiful sentiment. But of course, it was a man who said it.
Of course.
As you all know and have no doubt experienced, preparing a home-cooked meal is often hard work. It was especially difficult at the turn of the century because kitchens were simply not equipped to be efficient places. Perhaps the most impressive 19th century woman's advocate was Christine Frederick. Frederick's name will be forever associated with the Hoosier cabinet as she became its most famous advocate. I liked housework, Frederick wrote, and was especially fond of cooking. But the deadening part of it, the whole situation, was that I never seemed to finish my work. Anybody relate to that? Never seemed to get anywhere and never seemed to have any leisure. Cooking up some new standards. There's a photograph there of a vegetable preparing table from Christine Frederick's 1919 book. Frederick was especially interested in making kitchens more efficient for women and is credited with bringing about standardization of the height of kitchen counters. That's something I really would never have thought about as a man, but it's got to be the right height or you're going to wear yourself out. Frederick investigated some 1,800 different products, from household appliances to food, looking for labor-saving methods and preparation and use. In 1912, Frederick began a series of articles under the title New Housekeeping in the Ladies' Home Journal, for which she also served as a consulting household editor, to explain Taylorism, and that is defined as scientific management of workflows in the middle class, for middle class women. These articles were subsequently published in a book, The New Housekeeping Efficiency Studies in Home Management. Now here's someone near and dear to a lot of hearts, and Gene Ingram actually worked with this lady, didn't you, Gene?
On the book, yes.
Nancy Hiller was a cabinet maker who published numerous articles in period design and woodworking magazines. She was also the author of numerous books, and unfortunately she died on August 29, 2022 at the age of 63. In women's distaste for the realities of the late 19th century work, which varied from mild ennui, which is a feeling of weariness or dissatisfaction, to full-blown marriage-wrecking exasperation, a few entrepreneurial men saw golden opportunity. One night, while millions of anonymous women bent over ironing boards or dropped their sewing to answer the cries of screaming children, a small gathering of businessmen leaned back in their creaky chairs in their office club in Albany, Indiana. The group, which consisted of James McQuinn, his son Emmett, and 2 partners, J. Maring and T. Hart, convened on a regular basis to talk about commerce and to dream. And that's taken from Nancy Hiller's book. In 1898, J.S. McQuinn and 3 other citizens of Albany, Indiana, purchased a defunct furniture factory. The company went into business selling patented seed separators to farm homes from wagons. When the business failed to meet expectations, the men, as Nancy Hiller described, dared to dream. They introduced a new product to its wagons, kitchen cabinets. Designed by J.S. McQuinn, his son Emmett, along with an employee, Sam Flynn, the cabinets sold so well, it was decided the company should focus on these instead of the seed separators. In 1899, the first kitchen cabinet advertisements to be placed in a national magazine were published in the Women's Home Companion. The ads cost $17.50. As a result of this early advertisement, dealers and housewives began sending orders for cabinets. So much so, an addition to the factory was built in Albany as the year 1900 began. Then tragedy struck. There was a fire. 2 days before the kitchen cabinet operation was scheduled to begin with new equipment, the plant caught fire and burned to the ground. Now this picture here is just an example of how they fought fires back in those days. This is not the crew that fought the Albany factory fire, but probably similar to what they had been. This is Newcastle's first paid fire department in 1909, with a hose wagon and fire horses named Billy and Teddy. As you can see, there just wasn't an ability to put out a big fire back then in time to save property. When the factory was nearly burned down, J.S. McQuinn met with his son Emmett in the crowd, and Emmett was looking like he'd lost his last friend on earth. Emmett said to his dad, "I guess it's all over for us now." I said, "No, it isn't all over with us now. We are just getting a good start. This simply means that we will go to Newcastle or some other place and go at it right." After getting our insurance, we got stockholders together, and after going over the situation carefully, we decided that the business should be continued, but not at Albany. In about 10 days after the fire, we decided to visit Newcastle and see if we could secure a location there. Enter Charles Hernley. Newcastle's Charles Hernley, who could be considered Henry County's first economic developer before the term was ever invented, was one of the early leaders said to be a reason why Newcastle grew so rapidly in the early 1900s. Hernley was instrumental in bringing the Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet Factory to Newcastle in 1900, as well as the Jesse French Piano Factory in 1902. Both went on to become iconic. Just 4 years later, Hernley convinced Jonathan Maxwell and Benjamin Briscoe to bring their automobile factory to Newcastle instead of Muncie. Speeder Bicycle Factory in Newcastle is located a half a mile out of town on what was then known as Louisville Pike. And the Speeder Bicycle Factory operated from 1895 to 1900. James S. McQuinn purchased it and moved his new cabinet business here after the Albany factory was destroyed. Here's a picture of employees outside the Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet Factory. At its peak, the factory employed 700 people. On February 27, 1900, the deal was closed. We finally decided to take over the Speeder Cycle Factory, and by signing a contract to employ 25 people and work at least 8 months of each year, the citizens of Newcastle agreed to pay $2,000 on the purchase price of the factory. The deal was finally closed on February 27, 1899, for this factory, or just 30 days after the fire at Albany. That's quite a turnaround. Saving miles of steps, the Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet kitchen work is now a pleasure. Hoosier Manufacturing Company was incorporated in 1899 in Newcastle, Indiana. Their president, John M. Mering, sought to build a new type of cabinet. The idea was to take the traditional baker's cabinet and rearrange its compartments and add some new ones to make some kind of a one-stop shop for everything kitchen-related. Their new invention was a well-organized, compact cabinet provided a place for everything ranging from salt. Excuse me. Ranging from salt shakers to mixing bowls, and also a built-in flour sifter. There is a close-up of all the things the kitchen cabinet, Hoosier kitchen cabinet had. I have heard this phrase from my wife over and over. A place for everything, and everything in its place. But as you can see, there was a place for daily reminders, shopping list with pointers, useful tips and measurements. And your flour bin over here, spinning spice rack, mechanical sifter, slide out countertop, slide out shelf. Even had casters with anti-proof shields. Sugar bin on that side, bread drawer, and I'm sure back then it was amazing. This is the part of the story that amazes me. The Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet Factory people accidentally named the Newcastle Street. To get an ad in the Woman's Home Companion magazine that would do us any good for the spring trade, it was absolutely necessary to have the copy in the hands of the publisher by the 6th of February. We were sure of only one thing, and that was we wanted to locate in Newcastle. But the matter was still undecided. He and I finally concluded that we would take one long chance that the deal would go through all right, and Newcastle would be our new home. Well, we sent the ad in and gave the address of the company as number 1200 South 14th Street, Newcastle, Indiana. At the time, there was no 14th Street in Newcastle, Indiana. But 14th Street sounded as good to us as anything, so we used it. Some 5 or 6 years later, after we were here, the town board renamed the street, and Louisville Pike became South 14th Street. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the grid was decided and formed in downtown Newcastle, because of the Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet Factory in South 14th Street. The Hoosier Manufacturing Company started in a small 2-brick building, but grew to a factory that covered 2 city blocks. You can see that here in this picture. On January 30th, 1924, officials with the Holloway Furniture Store in downtown Newcastle announced that Hoosier kitchen cabinets were going to be on display the next day. The new units marked not only an advance in convenience and beauty of kitchens throughout the world, but in all probability, a step forward in the industrial development of Newcastle as well. That was from the Newcastle Times. The picture here shows a Holloway Wright delivery wagon. Ott J. Holloway and Trevor Wright, each successful businessmen on their own, combined their talents and interests to form the Holloway Wright Company in the early 20th century. The company decided to have test kitchens. In his Hoosier display beginning tomorrow, Holloway will show the women of Newcastle how completely and delightfully a kitchen may be furnished with Hoosier products. 2 complete displays are being arranged, one in the East Holloway show window and another on the main floor of the store. Lunch is served. The Hoosier Test Kitchens recently opened by the Hoosier Manufacturing Company to test out appliances for the kitchen made in this factory. It's said to be the only one of its kind in the country. The kitchen is located just south of the factory building on South 14th Street. Included in the test kitchen, which occupies a small house, is one large kitchen and a dining room, all equipped. Each noonday, lunch is served in the kitchen for the officers of the company and some of the office force. The kitchen is in the charge of Miss Evelyn Parker of the Domestic Science Department at Antioch College in Ohio. I like that, Domestic Science Department. You probably have some domestic science graduates in here, I suspect. Now the picture there, it says the Hoosier Manufacturing Company was founded by J.S. McQuinn at the far left in 1899. These men, probably officers of the company, the men with them, probably were among those who were served in the test kitchen. Some officials said the establishment of the kitchen is probably the greatest step forward ever made in the kitchen cabinet industry. This is an interesting photo. The photo shows Mr. and Mrs. Walter S. Chambers, who founded the Courier-Times, Mr. and Mrs. Ott Holloway, well-known furniture store owners, along with Mr. and Mrs. George H. Maxim, who owned the D Handle Factory, which made as many as 360,000 shovels a year. Holloway was an early promoter of the Hoosier kitchen cabinet. This was an ad that you would see in the newspaper. From this local newspaper ad to a 2-page spread in the Saturday Evening Post that cost $25,000, Hoosier kitchen cabinets were all the rage for more than 4 decades. Less than 5 years after the company started, 160 cabinets were being made every day. From 1915 to 1920, 700 cabinets per day were produced, shipped out in 8 to 10 carloads, each containing 64 cabinets. Suddenly, everyone wanted a Hoosier. The company weathered the panic of 1907. I didn't know what that was, but I guess it was a financial crisis set off by a series of bad banking decisions. And in 1908 had its greatest year's business up to that time, although the period brought many business failures. Hoosier Manufacturing Company grew to have more than 6,000 dealers in all sections of the country and did a large export business. From a force of 16 men when the factory was moved to Newcastle, the payroll grew to as many as 700 people. And there's a picture of office employees of the Hoosier Manufacturing Company in 1910. Flexibility was a key ingredient for kitchens. An early 1900 promotional ad said the Hoosier kitchen cabinet was so flexible that it could be adapted to kitchens of all kinds, for the cottage, the mansion, the small or large apartment, sliding shelves, special drawers, hanging cupboards, along with bins, racks, and compartments of all kinds, made the cabinets popular items for any person, regardless of wealth. Let me recognize this lady. I had the great opportunity to sit next to her during my years at the Courier-Times. Wonderful, wonderful lady, Betty O'Neill Givney. Seen here, worked as a reporter for the Courier-Times for more than 50 years. She wrote a story about the Hoosier kitchen cabinets for the book Newcastle, A Pictorial History. In that story, she cited a 1922 survey conducted by the New York University Bureau of Business Research that found the Hoosier Company was dominant in the minds of approximately 65% of those who could name any cabinet at all. By 1921, an estimated 10% of U.S. households had Hoosier cabinets. Givney wrote that at the height of its popularity, the company was second only to Chryserport in the number of employees as far as Henry County's workforce was concerned. The sales were everywhere. This is Harry Hall, factory superintendent, pictured here. Hoosier kitchen cabinets were sold in each of the then 48 states and several foreign countries. The company made lavish use of advertising, spending between $200,000 and $250,000 per year, a tremendous amount of money for that time. Betty Givney wrote, one 2-page spread in the Saturday Evening Post cost $25,000. Isn't it cool to have the Saturday Evening Post in Newcastle mentioned in the same sentence? I mean, that's a tremendous magazine with great history behind it. And for the Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet to advertise there, that's really something. Introducing the first weekly payment plan. The Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet, located in the south portion of Newcastle, occupied a floor space of 100,000 square feet. It was said to be the first in the nation to offer a time payment plan. For just $1 a week, any homemaker could have one. Total retail cost was $49.50 in 1918. So in a year's time, you'd have it paid off. Many memorable advertisements. A kitchen without a cabinet is like a farm without a plow. I thought that was an appropriate ad because the company started out in the farm business. The Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet was a creative product with equally creative advertising. And as I said, this one's especially interesting since the company originally began selling seed separators. No more weariness. I banished evening weariness by saving needless steps. The cabinet replaces crude and wasteful methods by those which can serve to comfort, health, and leisure time for improvement and happiness. Just the right size. And we talked about earlier the height issue. Yes, madam, we have a Hoosier in your height. Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet salesmen stressed they could be custom made for anyone, the small or the tall. A scientific time saver. This ad promised homemakers a cabinet that would save steps that bring fatigue and release the housewife from a hot, stuffy kitchen. I no longer dread summer's hot days, the ad says. The ad stressed that 1.5 million women have chosen Hoosiers because of its many wanted features, scientifically arranged conveniences that make any kitchen modern. No more slaving away in the kitchen. This one is an interesting ad. It says, I too have abolished slavery. This ad proclaims because of Hoosier Kitchen Cabinets, women are no longer slaves to the old ways that waste time and energy. Drudgery has ceased to be her master. With its many wanted features and labor-saving inventions, the Hoosier has made their kitchen work easy and enjoyable. Here's a September 1919 ad. Saving work is saving usefulness. This ad stressed that a Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet was a faithful helpmate of 1.5 million housewives. It said the cabinet was the mixing center, the labor-saving machine that cuts cookery work to a minimum. You sit at ease with 40 work-reducing inventions and exclusive conveniences before you. Within easy reach are all needed utensils and supplies. Work becomes play. 5,000 Hoosier agents. This stock advertisement stressed that there were 5,000 agents prepared to supply their latest triumph, the new Hoosier Wonder. It is $9 less than the average price of a high-grade cabinet. It is made by the same expert men and methods that have produced almost 1 million Hoosiers in use. This one's especially appropriate at this time of year, a gift that keeps on giving. My best Christmas gift, more leisure all year. This ad encouraged men to get their wives a Hoosier Kitchen Cabinet for Christmas. Such a gift no doubt made many instant home heroes. The gift of labor-saving Hoosier expresses the intimate thoughtfulness every homemaker appreciates. The ad read, it makes her work easier and more enjoyable all year. Well, the Hoosiers were very, very popular and setting the kitchen world on fire for about 40 years. So what happened? This gentleman came to our museum. This is a Zionsville resident. And he visited the Historical Society last year, very interested in Hoosier kitchen cabinets. So what happened? Times changed, as they always do. Betty O'Neill Gibney wrote that during the 1930s, Wall cabinets had been introduced. Developers of apartment buildings, which could place huge orders, began using stationary wall cabinets just as private homes were doing. The Hoosier Manufacturing Company did enter into the production of wall cabinets, but workers became restless over wages, and a strike was called. The elder McQuinn died, and his son had no stomach for labor dispute. Emmett McQuinn sold the company in 1942, and it was subsequently liquidated by all purchasers. Everything old is new again. The Hoosiers' heyday may have well ended at the close of the 1920s, but the cabinet's legacy is, if anything, on the rise. The cabinet's sheer eccentricity, combined with their attractiveness as historic artifacts, has earned them a following equal to that of any group of collectors. An internet search for Hoosier cabinet in early 2008 turned up over 40,000 entries. I didn't check to see what it does today. It's probably increased. That was from Nancy Hiller. And there's a nice picture of her. And as we said, she did some of her research here at the Henry County Historical Society with our president, Gene Ingerbeck. I thought it appropriate to end this part of the presentation with a poem about Grandma's kitchen. How many remember their own Grandma's kitchen? In Grandma's kitchen, there's the old raggedy rocker, the one that always tips back too far, and my heart skips a beat as I secretly enjoy the thrill. In Grandma's kitchen, there's mounds of old recipes on the counter, yellowing with age, being ripped from ancient editions of House at Home magazines. In Grandma's kitchen, there's the constant pleasant aroma of cookies, chocolate chip, and oatmeal, raisin, and snickerdoodle. The presence of cookie jars that are quickly ransacked by us. In Grandma's kitchen, there's a collection of teapots on the shelf, the daily weather forecast that Grandpa writes out every day on the table, the forest of palms and tiger lilies in the center. In Grandma's kitchen, time seems to stand still, and everything is perfect, familiar, bright. Even when the room itself doesn't belong to her anymore, it will always be to me, Grandma's kitchen. And you can bet, lots of grandmas in lots of kitchens work their magic with the help of a Hoosier kitchen cabinet. I want to thank Doug Majors and the late Mike Bertram. Some of the pictures in this presentation came from them, as well as historian Herbert Heller. This book, series of books, the 3-volume set, I rely on every week at some point. And come see us at the Henry County Historical Society. I want to, right now, show you some things that Mr. Dietz has brought to share with us. Or did I get your name right?
No, you didn't.
I didn't. I didn't think I did. Joe.
Yes.
Can you hold these up for me? Yeah, this is a group offer for Hoosier cabinets, only a small payment down. You know, I did not know that until I started researching this, that they were pioneers in the payment plan. $59.75, the new Hoosier Beauty, at a new low price. Has anybody heard of these, the new Hoosier Beauty?
This is a Hoosier Beauty.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
The one we're giving away is a Hoosier Beauty. Okay. Wow. Well, you would have heard of it now. Hoosier makes kitchen work a joy. And again, you think about what housewives had to go through back in those days. And there wasn't a place for everything and everything in its place. It was all scattered, and it probably cooking very hard. Cheerful, convenient, and so livable, this is the modern kitchen. And you know, my wife watches these home improvement shows, and it seems like the two rooms that they focus on the most, the two most sellable features of a house, are a big kitchen and a really, really nice bathroom. The one room exclusively a woman's, and so the kitchen should reflect cheer and charm as well as provide comfort and convenience. These people working for them in advertising were geniuses, I think. I mean, these are really, really good. You couldn't be a drudge in this kitchen. The Hoosier suite of two-tone gray brings a new beauty and convenience to the old workroom. And I like this: if fathers had to teach their daughters to cook, they would put in the most efficient system of step-saving and labor-saving devices. Well, sure, certainly they would. You want the best for your daughter. They would get things done much quicker with modern labor-saving systems. So the first thing they would do would be to put in a Hoosier kitchen cabinet, because it would concentrate all the work in one place. They would probably put the Hoosier snugly between the kitchen stove and the sink, and then they would instruct their daughter while she sat at her work. Not for 1 minute would they themselves take the countless steps they allow their wives to take. All Hoosier equipment is sold on terms to suit your needs. And tell me your last name.
Alexander.
Alexander. Joe Alexander. Let's give Joe a round of applause and thanks for some of these I had never seen before.
I'll show them how the ads were made.
Oh yes, I've got to. Yeah, I got. This is actually a plate that Joe has collected. Newspaper plate. That's the ad that was produced from this. Very cool.
It's heavy. Yeah.
And this is, well, explain this one.
It's just another printing plate, just smaller.
Just a smaller printing plate. Well, Newcastle is filled with lots of interesting historic stories, but this one about the Hoosier kitchen cabinet has to be one of the most intriguing and really you could say one of the most enduring, since they are still collector's items today. Does anybody have any comments or, dare I say it, questions? I'm not sure I can answer questions. Joe might be able to. Yes.
I don't know if anyone noticed on all those ads that were passed around, and when I was helping her research the book, Nancy Hillary, they threw in different addresses.
He and I were talking about the, do you know why?
No, I do not know why. Now, one says Sydney Street, one says Leslie Street, and there were other names that when we were doing the book, we noticed about half a dozen different addresses. But no, we do not know why.
Joe and I were talking about, they might have had different offices in town, and maybe that was the reason. But now some of these streets I've never heard of, and I didn't see anything in the Heller books to explain why they had different addresses.
Daryl,
Yes.
we figured it out.
Oh, okay.
When someone would return that ad to the Hoosier Manufacturing Company, they would know by the street name what magazine it had come from.
Oh,
Where they had, where they're.
really?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And so they would know if their advertising worked or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They tracked it
Well,
well.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
I did not know that, because I was curious too, because Heller wrote about the naming of 14th Street, but he didn't mention the other addresses. And I was like, I got to look at it, and I thought, wow, there's a bunch of different addresses there.
Thank you. I got it. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? And again,
I have a
thanks
question.
Joe Alexander for bringing that stuff.
All the pictures that we've seen on the screen and through here, I haven't seen any that's got like the 4 drawers. on
Because
the
there's not
right-hand
4 drawers
side.
there.
And
The
this-
top one is solid, that does not belong there. There would be 3 doors here, a small one, and then a larger break
Yeah,
door.
that's what I see in all the rest of them.
This is wrong.
So was that manipulated by the owner probably, or what?
Somebody was rebuilding at one time, the break door probably disintegrated, so they put 2 wood drawers down here and just a false front here.
Oh,
Oh, so that's not even a usable,
No,
it's just for looks.
just for looks.
Huh.
If I get this cabinet, that's gonna be made right.
Okay.
The other thing's wrong is this tag belongs up on top. Those are modern hinges. Those hinges are wrong.
Oh,
The hinges are supposed to look like, I brought one with me.
well, it carries them in his pocket. Let's see those hinges.
There it is.
Are the ones on the bottom door correct, bottom door correct?
No, the ones on the bottom would have been larger versions of this.
Yeah.
That's what's supposed to be on there.
Yeah, I can see it in this picture here. They're flat, like that.
Those are called butterfly hinges. This cabinet would have been made after, I think, 1922, which was when they introduced these legs.
Does that have like the caster wheels on
Got
it?
casters
Yeah.
on it, it's got the ant traps on it. Those legs would come in different heights, which was how they adjusted the height of the cabinet.
Oh, wow. Anthrax.
Ant traps. This little cup, you filled up with borax, the ant would not cross that. So it kept the ants out of your
Wow.
cabinet.
Wow. They thought of everything. Well, again, thank you for coming to this part of the presentation, and good questions, and I'm sure Joe's gonna be around for a while. If you have questions of Joe, you can ask him individually. Kate, you wanna take over, and what do we do next?
I thought we could take a little break and let people
Okay,
get refreshments, and then we'll have the drawing.
okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pass it to you. Is that this?
What did he do to himself, Neil?
Can you
Do you really
close
look
out a
down?
photo up here with the hinges? You got a newsletter, that's gonna be a good newsletter.
Everything good with chainsaw?
Right now?
Just where you were showing that hinge, how you was it?
Oh, you didn't hurt yourself.
If I did, he could do that.
Uh-huh.
He could
It
do that.
doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You can't use it.
Let's take one like that.
Well, you know, you're so famous for hurting yourself, that's the first thing we see Band-Aids.
Okay, this time, don't look at me, kind of look at it. Look at-
Oh,
you're not gonna fall off the rock pile and hurt my back.
Where's this guy from?
That one ain't gonna do it.
I got several mixed in.
He's saying around.
Yeah. I got Joe Deep on my You say it was published where?
In Indianapolis.
It may have been. It may have
He
been.
has
Boy, they just.
They might have had special areas because
He has
covering the
shoes
country
that
would be a
get
hard
hard
deal.
to do a job.
I usually have my.
We have, I think,
Or is-
one of the, sales in our files. And it's what they carry with them when they sold it.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't get up on a ladder.
But yeah, we have a copy of the, files. Would you like to
I
see
don't
it?
have
Wall Street
it.
has no leaves left on it.
Well, let's have it.
No good to next wall.
Let's have it, refreshment.
I don't care if we could, I could debate.
They were in the 1924 case and she won the
she could stay in one place, she'd have to do all the
I
walls.
restored about
But I don't
70
know about
winter
the,
cabinets
the
of
kitchen
different
being
brands.
not hot.
Currently have
You
two,
kind of have a wood stove or
Which is a wood stove.
yeah.
like
They look
McDougal,
alike.
Well,
Sellers,
they're
Hoosier,
conditioning back then.
made by different manufacturers.
But they
We
look
bought,
similar.
You know, air conditioning.
Yeah. Right. Hoosier became a generic term, just like any tissue is called a Kleenex. Yep, same thing.
Ah,
So we raised about,
okay. Is this a legitimate tag on this?
It is, but it just belongs up here, not here.
How we gonna? Well, I'm glad we're auctioning it off. Because there's so many different things that are not, you know, as it was originally.
You want one for me?
We have you been downstairs?
Sure.
We have,
Well, Hoosiers? Yeah.
several, we have no floor space
my
for.
head is so big.
I have 80 of them in my house. I have 80 of them in my house. You were child size on up.
Right.
That's why somebody, they offer us things that we can't take, we have no storage different, so, you know, we can offer us up, just French pianos all the time. But we have one, two, two, we have enough, you know.
Yeah.
We got one in another storage area, the house next door. Yeah, we can't take, we really can't take on anything. You're gonna get some, was it McCoy's book here?
Yeah,
Poor guy.
Portville.
yeah.
Well, we need like.
Yeah, you're right.
Portville. Same place.
About the same place.
Yeah.
So how many did we have probably here, about maybe 15, 20?
Oh, yes, this one.
It's too nice for me. Yes, yeah, yeah. But the key thing is almost $500. I mean, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
I'm gonna go get Joe the file that has the little salesman's booklet, where they were, you know, you had to sign your life away, Hoosier County. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, and we forgot plates and napkins. We'll get it right eventually. You know, we were so proud, I was so proud of me, that we got everything out, we forgot to uncover it. Okay, let me go get that file for Joe.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I wish I hadn't started calling. I have asthma issues at times too. So, this building isn't like me very well. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, yeah. It does, yeah, she's really something.
I never, she's just new. And then on my dad's side, I was too little to remember what was You remember your grandparents' house?
Yeah,
I think I may have told you my aunt knows. My grandmother's. It's an accident.
Probably.
So Kathy tells me you're selling tickets like crazy. Selling tickets,
For-
books, whatever.
Well, okay. Well, okay. No, when we were at the Arts Center, I was sharing that information, you know, Kathy's got these, and you sold all of them that you brought, right? Jim, bring them. We can sell more.
Yeah, have a vinegar come up to the museum.
Oh, I hope he made it up here.
Oh, we did too.
I didn't see him, I don't know.
I think Kate, have to ask Kate, because I think,
But I am still selling, for the Arts Center, their fundraiser is, you know Steve Whiter? Okay, it's his condo, island of St. Croix. It's a week stay, and the condo is on the beach, and, 2-bedroom. And you also, the value is worth $3,500, but you also get $1,500 in cash
Really?
to help pay for your airfare. So, and those are $20 a piece, so you can think about it, have some right here. So, yeah.
When do you have to travel?
I don't think there's any set time on
I think it was next year. So
Well,
April
yeah.
to April or something.
It's I know it's next year, but I don't think it's like, you know, did you hear that? I need to find that out.
Yeah, it wasn't for a short period of time. You had quite a.
Yeah, there was, because it takes a while to plan it.
I mean, they're not, they don't drop till January yet. Is that when they do it? Is it on there?
I don't think so. I think, they may do it at the, mistletoe, Martinez and mistletoe event. That's on December 1st. I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. I've been working on a lot of things like that. That might help. I don't know if it's on there.
Martinis and mistletoe, what is, who's doing?
You're only 4 months behind me. Old and older.
While she's waiting to get ready, I was gonna mention, this book is being reprinted, and it has 24, maybe 30, might have 30 new pages in it. I've tried to update things, and so this book will be available, I'm told, December 15th. We had hoped to get it here sooner, but we were at the mercy of the printer, and this book was $35 in 1992. So if you consider that, it hasn't gone up that much, but it would definitely be a keepsake, I think, and it covers Newcastle's history from the very beginning up through the restoration of the cannon.
Is that the latest thing in it, the cannon? deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'll be 2018.
yeah. Are we ready, Kay?
We're all ready. The first item that will be drawn is a certificate for our gift shop worth $50, or you can use it to reserve a copy of Daryl's new book. Those are the first two drawings.
Mary Beth Taylor.
Okay, she's not here.
Okay.
But-
Mary Beth, you wanna put it with that?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second here, Kay, I'll write these down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ann, if you would please speak a little bit louder into the camera.
Oh, okay.
So the winner of that was a $50 gift certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sheila Marion.
Oh, good.
That's me. What? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
That was also a $50 gift.
Uh-huh. Okay, so the next item is a lifetime membership to the Historical Society.
Valued at $100.
No, it's actually 300.
300.
Yeah, 100 was our bicentennial
Okay,
discount.
a $300 value.
Pat Chase?
I know him. He lives out of Dix. Yeah.
Yeah, so
You go, girl.
You would have a lucky year. Yep,
Okay, hang on a second.
he's in Texas.
So that, the last, or the most recent award was what? It was the
Lifetime membership.
lifetime membership.
This one, this final one, is for the Hoosier Beauty.
Somebody drunk over there.
Terry York?
Terry York.
Here you are.
Wow.
Cool.
Mayor's wife.
Mayor's wife. Congratulations.
Is it?
Everyone
Yeah,
else
yeah.
who
Oh, I understood Carrie.
gratefully entered the drawing gets a free 1-year membership to the Historical Society. Daryl writes a quarterly newsletter, so you'll get that, and invitation to all our events. So, you can have that.
Oh, no.
Because I should have all your contact information, and if I don't, let me know.
What? What are we getting now?
Membership, 1-year membership. Congratulations.
So I got these right? Let's double check.
That's okay.
We're at $50 gift certificate, Mary Beth and Sheila, right? Lifetime membership, Pat Chase, and the Hoosier Terry York.
Yep.
None that'll do any good.
No,
Well, not neat stuff in there.
It was so busy.
not really.
No coffin.
What's she doing?
She gave me $20 bill.
Whatever they call that.
Well,
the,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I know. I love it.
bottle caps.
I will,
Not that I'm aware of, but I can't tell you no. Not that I'm aware of. I
well,
can do
it's
that
gonna be his
today,
book.
and
I have
we
someone
go
in mind, and then I'm gonna purchase
Notice those
mine,
two.
so.
You want
yeah.
to do one, send anything to me.
I can't
I
wait to
can
see
find
it.
out real quick.
We had a garage full of
Let's go back
I
to
got two for myself.